All right, hi anatomy students. This is the last portion of our female sexual cycle notes. Let's just tie this all together. Go ahead and listen to this, and then you can take your own notes on this same document that I provided for you blank in Cami. So before we start, there are a couple of things that I included up at the top left corner here. E stands for estrogen and P stands for progesterone. So estrogen in high concentrations is going to cause an increase in the release of GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone, from the hypothalamus, and that high amount of GnRH is going to stimulate the release of luteinizing hormone from the anterior pituitary gland. The progesterone, P, causes a decrease in GnRH, and that causes the release of FSH, or follicle stimulating hormone. So I just wanted to keep that as a reminder for you up here at the top. So what we're looking at is a picture of an ovary, very similar to what you saw in the Prezi that I showed you. And we are going to start kind of like here at numbers 1 and 2. This is happening days 1 through 5 of the female cycle. This is when menstruation begins. So the first day of bleeding is considered day 1, and this is going to last for about 5 days. During this time, the endometrium is shed. And during this time, because we don't have a large corpus luteum, we are going to have diminished amounts of progesterone, diminished amounts of estrogen. And so if we look back up at our little thing here, this progesterone and estrogen together, these low amounts, they are going to decrease the amount of luteinizing hormone. But FSH is stimulated to be released. And because FSH is stimulated, we are going to get a follicle that starts growing around a primary oocyte. And so this is happening days 1 through 5. And then after day 6, I'm going to say like day 6 to about day 13, I'll make that into this green bracket here. This is called our pre-ovulatory phase, also known as the follicular phase. And what is happening here is that FSH is causing the follicle to grow. And as the follicle grows, it releases more and more estrogen. And if we look back up in our little corner here, estrogen is going to cause an increase in GnRH, which is going to cause release of luteinizing hormone. And so high estrogen is going to cause a higher frequency of the pulses of GnRH. Which is going to increase the amount of LH that is being secreted by the anterior pituitary gland. Now, at this time, you can't forget that the uterine cycle is happening too. And because we have more and more estrogen here, we are also getting a thicker and thicker endometrium. So I'm just going to put that in parentheses here. Even though we're not looking at a picture of the endometrium right now, you just need to know that it is happening at the same time as all of this. Okay, so we've gone through days 6 through 13, and I'm going to choose a different color here. I'll choose red in order to take a look at day 14. So day 14, we have ovulation or liberation of the oocyte from our mature follicle, which has the other name of a Graafian follicle. And the reason why this is happening is that at about day 14, once our estrogen is at its highest level, it's going to stimulate the hypothalamus to release a burst, I'll just say lots, of GnRH. And that burst of GnRH is going to cause the LH surge. It is the LH surge that causes ovulation. So now our oocyte is going to move on to the fallopian tube. So I'm just going to abbreviate that as the F tube. But you have to remember that our story inside of the ovary is not finished yet. So I'm going to change colors and move on to blue. And so now we're looking at basically the rest of our ovarian cycle. And this is day 15 through 28, because on average, the female cycle is about 28 days. And so what we have here is our empty follicle. It's called the corpus luteum. And the corpus luteum is going to release progesterone. And I'm not sure that you can see progesterone. There we go. And that progesterone is going to maintain, I'll put this in parentheses because again, we're not looking at the uterus, but it's happening at the same time. It's going to maintain the uterine lining. And remember that the whole point of that is to prepare the uterus to support a possible pregnancy. So if this egg gets fertilized in the fallopian tube, then the whole point of this is to ensure that the zygote has a place to implant and has nutrients in order to grow and develop, and that's what this progesterone is going to do. But if fertilization does not happen, then what's happening is that the corpus luteum is going to diminish. It's going to decrease in size. And when it decreases in size, that means that it's going to decrease the amount of progesterone. And if there's no fertilization, then we go right back to where we started, and the endometrial lining is shed, and we have menstruation. And so if we look back at our, up here at our little cheat sheet here, remember that when we have progesterone, so we've got lots of progesterone happening at the beginning of the, sorry, this is called the post-ovulatory phase, days 15 through 28. And if we've got lots of progesterone, then that's going to cause less GnRH to be produced. And so all the way up until this time, like when we've got low amounts of P, that means that we're not going to have a whole lot of FSH being released here. So if we've got low P, then that means that we also have low amounts of FSH. So during our pre-ovulatory phase, our main hormone that we're looking at is estrogen and FSH, while during our post-ovulatory phase, our main hormones are going to be, well, the main hormone is actually progesterone. During ovulation, the main important hormone is LH, which is what's causing that ovulation. Okay, so let's move on to our uterine cycle. Actually, I think I'm going to stop it here, and then I'll do the uterine cycle in another video, just so that I don't run out of time. All right, thanks for watching.